What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 54 of the Almost Daily Show with your host, Chandler, and
the Dave Picardi.
We're a couple of champions coming at you strong. We're here, we're excited, and we can't wait to talk about the topics today.
Absolutely.
That was a pretty riveting intro.
I think so. I mean, it was pretty good. Yeah, it was a little bit, we'll have to work it out. I'm still trying to figure out how to get, I think I need an assistant over here so that I can share out of the caves post as we go live.
You just got to learn to multitask.
That's what I'm doing.
Learn to do things while talking and not lose your train of thought. Yeah.
Back of the phone.
That's the key.
Here we go.
Hey, we have a bunch of speakers now. We're officially live. I've shared it in the groups. We're good to go. So today we wanted to talk about the idea of being an inspirational leader and why, if you have a team who follows you, you need to be able to inspire that team. Because more often than not, you find leaders who tell their team like, hey, you have to do this. And when they ask why, it's because I told you so, or something, some answer that they don't want to hear. And if you can't give your team a reason to want to move forward, and if you can't give your team a reason to want to continue pushing forward, and if you can't give your team a reason to actually follow you or care about what you're doing, then they're not going to care at all. And they're just going to say, well, I don't care. He's a jerk. He just tells me to do stuff, but doesn't tell me why. And so when you're approaching your team, you need to look at the world through their eyes. When I give this to them, what are they going to say? How are they going to react? How are they going to respond? And then how do I react and respond based on that? So I put a little twinkle in their eye and get them excited about what's going on. Because if you can't do that, they're never going to care.
The twinkle in the eye?
Yeah, you want that little twinkle, a little sparkle. So they're like, wow. He's got stuff going on.
I can tell you from firsthand experience, I ran into a huge problem with this. I mean, it's so easy. It's a slippery slope. It's easy to be on one side or the other. One of my businesses, I tried to remove myself as a leader and actually create more of a co-op system with employees and put things in their court. And really what it came down to at the end of the day was that, a team actually needs an inspirational leader. It's very important for you in your business, and if you're going to step aside, you really need to then put somebody in place to be that leader. And it's something that's a good topic for me. I love the topic. I've never struggled with being an inspirational leader, and I saw it in one of my businesses where it became a struggle. And I think that's an important piece, is to understand that if you are the leader in your business, that's who you are. You have to be the inspirational leader.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can't inspire, you actually brought up a good point just now. A lot of people think, especially in the gym industry, there's this weird fallacy that the second you can never go back into your business again, you're successful. But it can't happen that way. You can't be the guy who just disappears and expects your team to follow you and do whatever is supposed to happen, because nobody's going to know what to do, because there's no one telling them what to do or giving them a strategy or defining an outline or giving them any sort of strategic planning objectives or a vision. Right. And so if you're in a position to where you want to step back and not do anything, then you need to hire someone to be the leader. You need to hire a general manager who can provide the vision and everything they need, or someone who can be under you, who can run everything. But you can't just dip out and expect a co-op model to run the way you want it to run, because it's going to mold and fashion into exactly what the people inside are doing. And that may or may not be oriented towards the long-term vision of the business. And it's the ultimate responsibility of the leader to provide the vision, provide the why behind the vision, and then showcase to the team how you're going to get to that vision. And then in a way to where they feel like they're part of the story, they're an integral piece of the story, and you're kind of doing it hand in hand together to make sure it works.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I found, me personally, thank God there's, I know most of the world thinks there's 24 hours in a day, but I actually figured out, I listened to a couple Arnold Schwarzenegger speeches, and I think there's like 50 hours in a day. And thank God there is, because I've actually jumped back in and gotten fully involved in the business from the ground up, which I love to do. And it's really helped me kind of get a handle. And, we're trying to bring back the company vision and different things. And it really comes down to, trying to be an inspirational leader. And then ultimately, trying to figure out is how do you build that team around you so that everybody's got the same vision, heading in the same direction, delivering the same service and excellence.
Yeah, exactly. And you find there's a couple pieces to understanding how you make that happen. And number one, you have to know yourself and understand yourself and leverage exactly what you're good at to make sure all of this works. Find people to help you with what you're not good at to leverage that piece. And for me, I'm good at creating the vision, good at getting people excited, good at telling people the why and everything. And then Steph will go in the background and plan like the objectives and make the strategic things happen. And she'll do the tactical execution that we need. And so we go hand in hand to make sure that both of us leverage our strengths when we're presenting to the team and getting the team excited about what we're doing. And I think one of the biggest pieces we always lack as leaders is empathy. Just looking at the viewpoint of your team members' eyes, like I was saying earlier. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? How do I get them excited? And how do I provide the information and the vision in a way to where they're pumped about it? And if you can really understand the way they're thinking and the way they see the world, that's ultimately when you're going to be able to bridge the gap between being a good leader and a great leader, or a bad leader and a great leader. And that's ultimately what it takes. Who is your team? What are they thinking? How do they feel? How do they react and respond? Because you need to understand that your team is essentially more important than anybody else in the organization. Your team's more important than your customers. Your team's more important than anything, because your team's the direct representation of you to the outside world. And your team is going to display exactly what you want the customers to see, feel, and think. And if they can't display that, you're going to put your customers in a position to where they either don't understand, or they think what you're doing doesn't even matter, or they think like a team member's a jerk, but it's because the vision wasn't displayed properly and you didn't showcase that you cared about anybody.
Yeah, it really comes down to it comes down to the leader's vision, and I know I've seen it in me, and I've seen it in other leaders that, if your vision's not clear, or if your team's not understanding or heading in the same direction as your vision, it causes all sorts of problems, right? Like if the base vision of a company is to deliver X, Y, and Z, and the company's not capable of delivering it, it's ultimately it's the leadership's failure in either having the right team members or communicating, and giving the team members the resources and the direction needed.
Yeah, I think you had a good point just now too, and I talked about this.
I can't have that many good points.
Oh, you're incredible.
No, just I just want one good point an episode. The rest is nonsense.
You have good points. You're handsome, and you're a wonderful person.
Oh, Chan.
I know. I just felt like I had to say it on live TV so everybody could hear. Yeah, your heart is officially smiling. So you brought up a good point there, and it's a big thing. And I've talked about this on my Chan's Logic podcast. Here's a shameless plug for my personal podcast. Go to iTunes and download Chan's Logic podcast. But I talked about the fact that you have to have effective communication with your team. And if you can't learn how to communicate and replicate yourself in a way that they can understand and that you can teach them, you're going to get people who don't know what they're doing and do it wrong. And then a lot of people get in this mindset of, oh, well, I can't ask anybody to do it because they won't do it as well as me. I'm a perfectionist. And it's no, you're not a perfectionist. You're just not capable of teaching what you're doing to other people.
That's right.
And you're not capable of replicating yourself in a way to where they can understand. You didn't communicate it properly with them, and you didn't organize how to train them in phases of strategic planning. So it's not it's not your team's fault. It's your fault.
Yeah, it could also be, you don't actually have a really tight system. If you're so good at it, you've not actually gotten it down on paper what you're so good at in a step-by-step process that you can follow. If you don't have that first, there's no way to teach it to others. And then, ultimately, if the team, right, if you have the right team and you don't have buy-in, you need to kind of re-engineer it. You got to look at it. If you're not able to deliver what's in your head, maybe it's not, the right direction to be going in. And then vice versa. If you have something in your head and you have a vision and you have it all written out and you're charging forward trying to deliver something, and the team's not doing it, maybe it's the wrong team, right? So it could be vice versa. But ultimately, if you want to be a leader, you have to upfront have the right processes in place, the business model, the vision. It all has to be solid so you can communicate it correctly and teach your team members how to actually deliver it, right? And then you can lead them correctly because you're all heading in the same direction, trying to accomplish the same thing. Yeah.
And when we look at, you talk about team members too a second ago, and sometimes they listen and they pay attention. Sometimes you need to take a step back and reanalyze what you just said to make sure that they're consuming it in the way you want them to consume it. And sometimes you get team members who just don't care. They're not listening. They're not paying attention. They're not following what they need to do. And that's the hard part about being a leader, because that's when you need to make the conscious decision to let those people go so they don't become a drag and a strain on the organization in the long run. Because what will happen is these kind of people will turn into the people who are just complacent. They don't do any of the work. They make excuses about why they can't do the work. And then you end up in a round robin thing, because especially if you're empathetic towards these people as a leader, you want to give them every opportunity available to succeed with you. But at some point there has to be too many opportunities. And that's when you have to make that tough decision to say, hey, it's not working out. We're not a good fit. You're not doing the things we need you to do. I'm getting a lot of excuses. And that's probably one of the hardest parts about being a leader, is making sure your team's always on point.
Yeah, that's always something that I'm probably not alone in this. I'm lousy at being an employer and having employees and not caring too much about them. I'm really bad at it. And I have, in all of our professional mingling in the world, I've met some sharks when it comes down to like not blurring lines and hiring and firing. And I know, like, Chan, you get a great thing: hire fast, fire faster. I struggle with that because I put a lot into people, and something that I put a lot of stock into is the relationship side of things. And I know for me personally, I do too much work for people, and I'll get it all done, and I'll let people not quite be where they need to be, and I'll bring them along, and I'll do the presentations, and I'll build them up, and I'll do different things, hoping that one day it gets to a certain point, which is actually poor leadership. Okay? And so that's something that I recognize in myself. You got to have a better system. I know we've rewritten our whole thing to make sure that people have to actually get certain things done and graduate to move on. And I can't graduate them early, and I got to make sure that they actually understand their job and they can succeed without me in that position. And if I can't do that, then I can't be a good leader with them, and I can't help them.
Yeah, that's huge. I learned this a long time ago, that you have to care immensely about your team, because I'll have a conversation with my team and then I'll think about it for 3 or 4 days about how it went, what they were thinking, how it could have been done in a different way. And it's constantly analyzing. And it's because you do care immensely about your team, how they're reacting, how they're interacting, what they're thinking. And it should be constantly in the back of your mind. And I learned a long time ago, just like you were talking about, that you have to be at some point realize that you can't give too much to any one person. And it's always the one person you try to give everything to who burns you in the end. And so you have to be sure that you're always in a position to where you are leading them. They know that you're the person who's in charge and telling them what they need to do, giving them the vision, but they also feel compelled to follow you. But then at the same time, you're not giving them every single thing you have available, because if you give them too much, if you give them ounce of cookie, it just continuously takes away. And so it's a really tough balancing act, especially if you care about your team. It's always, how much do I give? How much are they going to give in return? Because I always want to make sure I'm giving more than they're going to give back to me. So that way I'm always in a position to where I'm giving them the most value available.
Yeah, it's important. And then you don't get into positions like I found myself in, where I created a co-op for a business and put people in charge and all the stuff. And then ultimately they didn't, it's not everybody's a leader. So, when you put a team together and there's no leader in the group and they're not charging ahead and doing their thing, I guess things are fine for that group. But then when you own the business and you have your vision and you come in and relook at things and you're like, this isn't what my vision was. So now you get yourself into a position where if you weren't a good leader in the first place and you're trying to become a good leader, there's a whole nother set of skills, I think, to try to transition yourself so that you don't come in with the axe and change things, which is what I'm known for.
Yeah, that's a good point. So when we go in, you can't just finesse. Yeah, mo finesse, mo better. I always find that you can't just randomly disappear and expect things to run the way you want them to run. It's crazy to think that. You have to be present. You have to be aware of what's going on, and you have to be giving strategies and ideas for your team to follow. And your team has to be able to communicate with you, or at least see you. You have to be, at the minimum, a figurehead in your organization. If you just disappear and you drink Mai Tais and Bora Bora, your team's not going to want to follow what you're doing because they don't see you because you're out of mind. And then they're going to turn the business into whoever decides to be in charge at that point, or you put in charge, wants the business to be. They're the visionary, they're the leader, and they're the guy who's going to direct it. And then when you come back and you're like, no, it's different, you can't just go in there, like you were saying, and drop the hammer, because then everybody's going to be upset. People are going to quit. People aren't going to want to do what's happening because people don't like change. People will follow change if you can give them a vision and a why, but they're not going to follow change if you just come in and drop the hammer and say, this is what we're doing because I said so. It has to be, hey, this is what's going on. This is why I don't think this makes sense for the long-term benefit of what we're doing. And this is how we're going to change it. And then you get them on board and excited about what you're doing, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, ultimately, I truly believe in this. In the service-based business, it's obviously the service-based businesses are up and down. They're real hard, and you have to be on your game all the time. And it's why I think owners of service-based businesses, especially ones that work inside of the business, can't turn it off. They work 7 days a week. They barely take vacations. They wake up every single day thinking, when I make it, when the finances get a little bit better, right? When this happens, I'll be able to take a break. But just knowing the way the service industry works, that never happens, right? You never quite make enough money. You never quite get the right people. You never quite, it's always like you're just not quite there. So it's super important that one, you draw really good lines in your business for what everybody's roles are. And then ultimately, I feel you should share some sort of long-term success with the employees. So if they're also in the service-based business, they have to have a stake in it. I think that's where most of the problems come from is you have, it could be anything. It could be the gym business, the massage business, acupuncture, physical therapy, chiropractic offices, and you have employees and they come in and they work, except they can only earn so much money, and then you try to find ways to share that money with them. And that's where, I know I've run into some problems, and I tried to implement certain systems and spent a lot of time in them, and they didn't quite work out for us. And ultimately, I think it came down to leadership and making sure that there needs to be a strong leader and there needs to be clear lines and a really, really good incentive for employees to take ownership.
Yeah, I find too that incentives are really interesting because if you only have individual incentives, you're going to create an individualized culture where people only care about themselves. And in any sort of service industry or any kind of organization where you have team members you're working with, you need a team-based environment where people are encouraged to work together. So I think your incentives can't be organized around the individual. The incentives need to be organized around overall growth and performance of the team and then each member in the team. So that way, if one team member's falling apart, the other ones either pick them up or you come in and you get rid of that one team member who's bringing the team down. But I think ultimately your packages and the way you take care of them and the way you build your team up to want to continue pushing forward financially is some sort of team-based incentive. If you can get them working together as a team, you're going to get collaboration, efficiency, and you're going to get excited people who want to work together, and you're going to get rid of the individualized only me culture.
Yeah, I know we struggled with that. I truly believe in sharing success with the employees, and I know we implemented a model that didn't work out in that favor, and we've made the adjustment. But I think that's where we've personally struggled with the leadership side of things. Is we put so much into one thing, and then there was a lot of holes in it, and now we've made the correction. Now it's a matter of now trying to get people back on board with a vision of long-term success and but more a team approach and not that individualized approach, because it doesn't work long term. It always falls apart as an individual. There's no team.
That's why people don't like car salesmen, because they're all about their single commission. But if you had a team-based commission structure, it would get people to want to work together and get rid of that individualized shark mentality.
Yeah,
this has been good, Dave.
Dude, love it.
Yeah, good times. All right, you guys, until maybe tomorrow, we'll see you probably, most likely. We don't know.
Maybe.
But who knows? All right. See ya.
Later.